What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and we are wrapping up Cleveland Browns week. Final preview and prediction video. Going to tackle some viewer questions that were submitted. Going to give my final score prediction, but I want to hear from you as well. How do you see the game unraveling? What's the final score going to be? Drop your thoughts, drop your predictions in the comments. Let's carry on the conversation leading up to game day. Game time, I should say. I'm releasing this one a little bit later on Saturday. My bad for that. But so we have a little less time to talk about it. But regardless, I want to hear your thoughts. But I said I got some questions. I want to get to as many as I can. So let's jump right in. The first one, since we didn't add a cornerback at the trade deadline, any chance the team thinks Byron Jones may be back after the bye week? I see this one of two ways. I've talked about this a little bit in some previous videos, but it's either one, yes, after the bye week, maybe they think he'll be healthy enough to come off PUP and to actually play. Or two, they're just like, you know what? We've survived this long. We added Bradley Chubb. We're going to get more pressure up front. We're going to live with what we have in the secondary. But I think I said this in that previous video as well, is what scares me the most is if Byron comes back. And it's a huge if because every single week, Mike McDaniel has asked this question, and it's always no practice, not expecting him to play. The fact that he's not even practicing yet and he's not out there, and it's like, okay, well, if he does come back, is he going to be rusty? Can we leave him in man coverage against these NFL quality wide receivers, these best guys that we're going to be facing out on an island? Are we going to need to give him a bunch of safety help? There's so many questions right now that just kind of surround his entire situation. I've kind of mentally prepared myself to like, we're living with Howard, with Kohu, with Crossan, with Iggy, with Justin Bethel. We're going to be living with these guys at this point in time. And it's unfortunate because I really wanted to see this team, this defensive back with Xavier and with Byron. But at this point in time, yeah, maybe they think he's coming back after the deadline. But even if he does, I've got questions as to how ready he's going to be. Let's jump into the next one. Well, Josh Boyer figured out how to contain scrambling quarterbacks. Well, I'll tell you what, he better, but at the same point in time, we don't really play another one yet this season, in the regular season anyways. Yes, we played Josh Allen. I believe it's week like 15 or 16. But we play Josh Allen twice a year the way it is. So we kind of already have a defensive plan or an ideal defensive plan for how to contain him. But if you look ahead into the playoffs, and if you got to face a guy like Lamar Jackson again, per se, you got to have a plan. But what I would say is there's a glimmer of hope. And it's the amount of time that's between now and that game, the amount of film that can come out, the amount of just essentially time that you have to be able to prepare for something like this. Because we've seen it a little bit with our zero blitz defensively. Teams, it had a lot to do with the Dolphins losing some personnel, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, as more time elapsed and more film came out of teams actually beating it, it's a copycat lead. It happens. So this is just more time that the Dolphins defensive coaches have to say, what are the teams doing to stop Justin Fields? What are they doing to stop Lamar Jackson? And man, they've already seen it a couple of times now. So hope to God that if it has to happen again, they will have a plan. So I'm not saying they'll hold him to 20 or 30 rushing yards, but let's just not let him set the NFL record for most rushing yards in a game by a quarterback. So yes, I think they'll figure it out. The good news is Jacoby Brissett this week. We should be okay in regards to scrambling quarterbacks. Let's jump on to the next one. Another defensive question here. Do you think Bradley Chubb and the defense will show up this week? Well, I'll tell you what, Bradley Chubb alone did show up last week. He had got to the quarterback a couple of times, didn't finish with the sacks, but he looked good there. He played some of those stretch runs pretty well on those pitch plays where he was able to defend both the quarterback and the running back. I thought he looked good there. Really excited to see. Remember, he was on a short week as well, playing against a scrambling quarterback that's not everyone's Justin Fields. Not everyone can run around like that. So you almost got to take last week with a grain of salt. But here's the thing about the defense as a whole. I would like to say yes to this answer, that yes, they'll show up. But I want to say that because, and there's a caveat, it's more of a traditional offense. Look at what the Browns do. They are awesome at running the ball with their running backs. What are we good at defensively? We're pretty good at stopping opposing teams' running backs. So there's strength on strength. There's something that we can hang our hat on and say, you know what? This team wants to beat us on the ground. This is one of our strengths. It's not out there trying to tackle a guy like Lamar Jackson. And it's not going against this high air raid offense that we would see from like the Chiefs or somebody. Jacoby Brissett is who he is. We know him as Dolphins fans. We know that Amari Cooper, he's had some weird games against Xavier Howard. Howard's gotten the best of him in the past, but Amari Cooper has gotten the best of Xavier Howard as well. So it's a lot of strength versus strength in this game. That's why it's such an intriguing matchup. But yes, I think they show up. But as I'll get to in my prediction, I need to see it to believe it before I think, you know what, we're back to that defense that can allow 17 to 20 points per game. I don't think we're there yet. But yes, I do think we'll see a much more solid, consistent performance this week compared to last. Another defensive question. How do you think the defense can be fixed? I'll try to make this one a little bit quicker since I focus so much on the defense. But here's the deal. The NFL is tricky because in a salary cap league where you can only have so many studs on your team, you're not going to be awesome everywhere. And the fact that we've had the injuries that we've had and we've lost players that we have with Byron, with Needham, it's going to be tricky to outright just fix this. Yeah, you can tinker with a few things, but you can't just be like, okay, well, we're this press man team that loves to run a zero blitz. And guess what? This next week, we're going to run a bunch of zone coverage. Doesn't work that way. This team went all offseason basically planning to be a certain type of defense. And now we're thinking you can just flip a switch and be this other thing. That's not how it works. Other teams are going to try to take advantage of this defense because of how beat up it is and because the way it's been exposed in certain ways. But at the end of the day, like I said, we can tinker with things. Maybe we can play a little bit more zone coverage versus trying to stick with that man identity that we've been. But at the end of the day, when you there's too many hurdles to overcome at certain points. So yeah, there's enough blame to go around, but we can't just be like, Josh Boyer, you're terrible, midseason fire. Like we can't have that mindset because this defense that he's playing with right now is not what we prepared for throughout the entire offseason. Here's an offensive question. Do you think Jeff Wilson has taken over the lead running back role from Raheem Mostert? I'll say no, but I will say that I absolutely loved what I saw from Jeff Wilson in that first action against the Bears. I said this, I think, in that recap video. The dude looks like he's been here since week one, running the ball between the tackles very well, catching the ball well. He had the receiving touchdowns, the pass protection. He looked like he had been here all offseason. He stepped in and just looked very natural in the part. What I will say, though, is Raheem Mostert's been doing it all season. He's been doing it consistently as well. He did have that drop against the Bears. End of the day, drops are going to happen. So I'm not going to downgrade him a ton for that. But what I will say, the split between Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds is much wider than the snap and carry and touch split, I should say, between Mostert and Wilson. I think they are going to essentially be like a 1A and a 1B versus Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds, where it was a clear number one and clear number two. There's going to be some blurred there. It could be some feeding the hot hand. One way or another, though, I love the fact that we have both these guys, and they both look smooth. They both look natural doing what they're doing. Let's get one more question before we jump into the final prediction. Is it time to bench Emmanuel Ogbah? I don't like the bench word here, but I understand it. But Mike McDaniel, I believe it was earlier this week, said like, you know what? Ogbah was out to a little bit of a slow start, but things were clicking, things were gelling, and then the injury happened. So we need to keep in mind that he is not playing 100%. And I don't want to outright say, you know what? You got to give him an extra week. Just sit him. I don't think it doesn't always work that way. You can't just be sitting these guys just for the sake of, well, it's a luxury. We have a bunch of guys at this position. These guys want to play. They want to be out there. We want to see this unit come together and gel. And how do they all play when Bradley Chubb? Give him a little added rest. Come back after the bye week. Have this defense as full to healthy as it's been literally since like week one. That's what I'm kind of hoping there. But in a flat out like bench roll, no, I don't think we're going to end up doing that. But let's jump into that final prediction. This is what I was saying. I don't have the Dolphins defense going back to holding teams to under 20 yet. I have this as a very close game. Dolphins winning 28-24. But like I said, it's so much strength on strength. This is a Browns team whose record isn't all that good. But at the end of the day, I mean, 3-5, you would think like, yeah, they should be a little bit better than that. If you look at their team on paper, the way they can run the ball and the studs that they have on defense and Myles Garrett being able to impact a game the way that he can, We're going to have our work cut out for us. But, I think that the Miami Dolphins are they've reached a point on offense where I used to be like, oh, well, this team's got a really good pass defense. We're really going to have to control the clock and run really well this game. Our offense is clicking on all cylinders right now in the passing game, where it's like, I don't even care who we're playing against. If you let Tua, if you get him going early with these wide receivers, with this scheme, with the protection that he's getting, they can pass. I'm not even too worried about that anymore. So I've got the Dolphins handling the scoreboard and handling things offensively very well. It's, can that defense show up? Can they indeed stay the course? Continue to do well against running backs and handle Nick Chubb? Because if you make Jacoby Brissett be the one that beats you, I like our odds. But yes, I've got the Dolphins earning their 4th straight victory, getting that win before going into the bye week, because you don't want to lose going into the bye week, an extra week to think about things, an extra long ass week for you to be like, when's the next game? We need to get another win going. Get this win, make it 4 in a row, go into the bye week, get healthy, and then take it from there. But like I said, I want to hear your predictions as well. How do you see the game unraveling? What's your score prediction? Drop that in the comments, and I will be back on some point on Sunday with my recap and takeaways. But that is my time for today, Dolphins fans. And until then, fins up.